Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today we have something a little bit special. I've got a guest in who would like to sharpen up their Turbodepth knowledge, so say hello to Constantine. Hello, Constantine.
Hey there.
So yeah, Constantine wanted to sort of sharpen up their Turbodepth thing because they're just getting into playing this deck, and I thought this would be a good time to do like a video where we really dive into how to play this deck. So I'm going to be sort of asking Constantine a lot of questions about how they want to sort of play the turn or keep their hands and stuff, and then we can discuss the different sort of decision trees. And hopefully this will be some really nice content for you lovely people out there to get you a little bit sharpened up on some Turbodepths. Turbodepths, I play out on my channel a lot, so Hexmage, Dark Depths, Thespian Stage, Dark Depths, we make it 2020. We've got a bunch of tutors, we've got a bunch of fast mana, we've got some hand disruption, we've got some things like Pithing Needle to stop Wasteland and Karakas and all that, and Not of This World, to protect against things like Source to Plowshares and Karakas activations. We've got a few silver bullets in our land. I've been over this deck many times before, and this list is the same one that I played in the last video, possibly in the last two videos, I'm not sure. I've been really liking this list, so we're just going to sort of jump right into things, because it's probably going to be a bit of a longer, because there's going to be more conversation about how to play the deck rather than what the deck looks like. So strap in, like and subscribe, and let's really get into this one. If you've been watching my content and thinking, I'd like to play some Legacy too, then check out 3-for-1 Trading, one of Europe's leading Magic the Gathering retailers. They have weekly offers and upload new cards every Wednesday. And it's not just Legacy stuff they sell. They have a beautiful selection of vintage and old school cards too. Support from sponsors like 3-for-1 Trading make it possible for me to put out videos and help keep Legacy alive, so why not give them some love? Click their link in the description below and use my code COW3 to enjoy free worldwide shipping on your first order over €500. Our opening hand for our first game. What do you think, Constantine? Tell me what's on your mind.
So we have a way to get Dark Depth with crop rotation, and we also have a Vampire Hexmage or Thespian Stage, so the other half the combo. What we are lacking to use a Hexmage is a double black mana, and the crop rotation is probably better or has higher chances to resolve because we have a Thoughtseize, which we also can't cast. We would also rely on Once Upon a Time to find us a black source, but maybe you could mulligan and do better.
So would you keep this hand if this was you playing?
I guess I would maybe keeping it, but I don't think it's a good idea. I think we should mulligan this.
Okay, so I actually quite like this hand. We're on the draw, so we have an additional draw step coming our way. So we're going to get to see 6 additional cards before we have to make a land drop. And we have the access to things like the Verdant Catacombs, and if we find an Urborg, we're absolutely just having it off here. So the upside of what Once Upon a Time can find is huge, and people tend not to counterspell Once Upon a Time. Now, I would prefer one of these Hex Mages to be something else, and I would prefer this Boseiju to be like a basic or a Verdant Catacombs. But I think the upside here is good enough for what we want to be doing, because we potentially, this hand can kill our opponent, or we can make a 2020 on turn 2. Now, there is definitely, like you correctly identified, there is some risk that we don't have the black mana here. But the Once Upon a Time, if we go and have a look at our deck list, we should have enough hits off of this. So we've got a couple of Bayous here, we've got the Urborgs and the Verdant Catacombs. So we're going to see 6 cards, and we've got, 8, 9, 10, 11 hits for a black mana. So that's a pretty good shot, I would say. So we can still mulligan this one. There is an argument to mulligan this one, but I would prefer to keep it. If you would like to try and see what this looks like if we mulligan it, I'm happy to do that as well.
No, I think I'm fine with your explanation, and it's probably better to keep more resources, so going down also has its risks.
Okay, we will keep this one. On the play, I would be more inclined to mulligan, though, for the reasons you stated. But I think just on the draw, getting that extra card as well. So we get to see 6 cards, and we have 11 cards we're looking for to really sort of pop off here. Okay, so Underground Sea and Tamiyo. What is it we're thinking here? So blue-black Reanimator, blue-black Tempo. The main thing, so what are the main threats that we're looking from our opponent's deck in terms of interacting with our strategy at this point?
So there's obviously Daze and Force of Will, which could interfere, especially with our crop rotation, so I would not be inclined to cast it before we had a chance to sort these our opponent to see what they're working with.
And we also got Wastelands as a potential to be concerned about.
Yeah,
so,
that's true.
I think, obviously, the play here is just the Once Upon a Time first, and then we can wonder what our turn looks like. So we missed on black mana, but we did find the black mana from the Lotus Petal. So we have some decisions to make here. What is it that you think we should do here?
So, as we lined out, it would probably be good to Thoughtseize, and as you also said, we are prone to being wastelanded. As we have 2 Thespian stages, we could play this first. So it's not too bad if it gets wastelanded, and it allows us to play the Thoughtseize around days with our Lotus Petal if we want to do this.
Okay. So one of the things I'm also thinking about with this hand is when do we Thoughtseize? So next turn, we're unlikely to be able to just win the game or to make our 2020. So we might need to play more turns of this game, which means that the Thoughtseize is going to have to do more work later on, is one of the things to consider here. So I like the idea of playing the Thespian stage here, because this means if we play the Thespian stage and the Lotus Petal out, we can just spike some stuff and get the victory in a different fashion, because we can draw some more fast mana and maybe that accelerates us.
So we would play the Lotus Petal out because they are not going to remove it probably, and it can be discarded this way, right? Even if we don't.
Yeah, so we definitely play out the Lotus Petal. The only decision I think here, aside from the Lotus Petal, is whether or not we play out the Boseiju or the Thespian stage. If we Boseiju and they wasteland, we can crop rotation, and even if it gets countered, it's not the end of the world because we've at least gone through a wasteland of theirs. But if we play the Thespian stage out and they wasteland it, we just absorb the hit for the wasteland, which is also reasonable too. Which way do you think we should play? I think either has some merit.
The question is, what do we gain if we play the Boseiju? I think the channel ability won't be too, or could be relevant against Wasteland. So maybe I would play the Thespian stage for this reason. We don't have Pithing Needle or Disruptor Flute to handle a Wasteland, but we could with the Boseiju.
Okay, we'll play this out. I think either play is pretty reasonable. So one of the reasons you might want to hold the Boseiju in hand is just to protect your green source from wastelands as well. But the one downside is that our opponent might be a Reanimator player. That's a possibility. And then having your green source in play to crop rotate can be useful.
So we don't lose the petal if we need to emerge.
So we don't lose our black source that we're trying to use for other pieces of disruption. All right, our opponent's just coming in and making a clue. No wasteland here. We've just got okay, so we've got a Thoughtseize in here. So we have some options about what we can do. We can try and fire off of a crop rotation, or we can just let this hit. What do you think we should do?
Well, I'm inclined to say we should not react with a crop rotation, because if it's countered, our route to Dark Depths is gone. But they could also discard it, which then has the same effect. I'm not sure about this one. But I'm inclined to say we should not react here.
So our opponent has 2 cards in hand right now. So if we crop rotate here, we can play around a daze because we've got the 1 mana we have extra. And then we just have the combo basically sewn up if we just find a bit more land. If we let this go through, we're always losing the crop rotation, but we might be able to use a crop rotation and something else, because let's say we use a crop rotation and it gets countered. If they take one of these cards from the Thoughtseize, it doesn't really matter because they're not going to have any cards in hand, so the Thoughtseize doesn't do anything. And we have redundancy from the Hexmage. So I'm inclined to use a crop rotation here as this little spot. Now, it definitely can go wrong, but we're going to lose this anyway. So we may as well try and throw our sort of whole hand in and see if we can get there, because the other cards aren't necessarily something we're going to leverage.
Okay, then let's do it.
So we float for this so we can pay around the days. And then we will try and crop rotate this. So they have to have exactly Force of Will blue card. And if they don't, then we have the combo available that can't be taken away from us here. This also gives us the ability to just spike a Urborg and then be very far ahead. So they probably take the Thoughtseize, would be my guess here. There it is. Does that give us any information about what our opponent's doing? Probably not. I think that's just the obvious pick there. Okay, so now we have some choices here. What land do you think we should play out?
Well, I think we could play the Thespian stage, so we can guarantee to make a Marital Age next turn because we have the Lotus Petal. So even if we don't get a second black mana, we can go next turn possibly.
Technically, we could still do the same if we play the Boseiju out. The thing of playing the Thespin stage out is we can represent, with a Thespin stage plus Lotus Petal, we could represent having another piece of fast mana in hand. Actually, no, we can't because they've seen our hand, right?
No,
So
they know
they're
we
going to know everything. So it's a case of, do we want to keep the green mana back for casting some tutors down the line, which I think is probably correct. And I'm going to agree with you on playing the Thespin stage here. But it's just worth thinking about, do we want to keep the green mana for potential tutors and stuff? Or do we want to have the Thespin stage in our hands so it's less likely to get the Wasteland? But a lot of people won't just straight up Wasteland into you when you play this deck, which is something you learn when you play it a bit more, is that when you have a setup like this, your opponent tends not to Wasteland you a lot of the time because they're fearful of something weird happening, right? Or they want to just use their Wasteland to interact with you when you try and go for it. So they can kind of just freeze all your mana down just by having a Wasteland up. So that is an interesting thing to be aware of. So our opponent's going to have a couple of Tamiyo clues they're going to be able to start cracking soon. So what sort of... okay, so they're tapping out here, which suggests to me that they don't have access to...
an answer.
Yeah, not an immediate answer. But they don't necessarily need an immediate answer right now because they know our hand. So this is kind of their turn off to just try and gas up as best they can. What does this Preordain tell us about our opponent's deck? Because this is an unusual card to see in a lot of these blue-black shells.
That's true. To be honest, I'm not sure. I haven't seen this in a Dimir shells, to be honest.
Okay,
it's
so
for,
we've
it's
also
for
got...
Delirium.
We've got the Lotus Petal as well. So these two pieces of information tell us that our opponent is almost certainly playing Doomsday, which completely changes the dynamic of how this game actually plays out. So I've seen a few Doomsday builds lately with the Tamiyo. Okay, so they've got themselves a blocker. So I think our opponent is on Doomsday. We are just going and doing our thing. So I don't think we have to worry about Wastelands now because we've seen Lotus Petal and Preordain. So I think we're better off just holding back and then firing this in our opponent's end step.
Yeah, Doomsday is not going to have main deck answers, probably.
No, there's a few builds that are running 2 to 3 Tamiyo in at the moment. Just because it's a very good card. It attracts attention from your opponent and can let you build up clues that can change your ability to go through Doomsday piles and things. Why wouldn't you play a 1-mana Planeswalker, I guess? Okay, so they're coming in with this.
This is unusual, so it probably means they have some kind of answer.
Mm-hmm.
So they are below 20, so they minused it anyway.
Mm-hmm. So I don't believe there is a good 1-mana answer our opponent can have here. Like things like Chain of Vapor are just a card you just don't see in Legacy anymore. Certainly not in the main deck. Okay, so they're flipping this Tamiyo. Now we're plussing this. This isn't good enough to stop what we're doing. Okay, so they have a third Tamiyo. Understood.
So they will have one turn.
So I'm sure you agree with me that we're just making the 2020 here and beating our way through, right?
Yeah, right.
So we can draw crop rotation here. It's pretty good. We get the Thoughtseize off as well in a second, which is quite nice. Do you think we should Thoughtseize before or after we attack, or do you not think it really matters?
I don't think it matters here.
Okay.
Because
we're going
I don't think our opponent can do anything meaningful between.
So this has to go under the bus, and then we can go and get ourselves a land. Do you have any views on what land we should get?
I guess there's no harm in getting a Bayou because we don't have to fear non-basic hate.
I 100% agree. So let's see if this Thoughtseize can do enough here. I can't remember if they kept on top with the Ponder or not. Okay, so Edge of Autumn and Lion's Eye Diamond. So what is the best to hit against our opponent? So if they are a Doomsday player and they have Doomsday on top of their library, they can pay 3, put the Doomsday on the stack. They can play Lion's Eye Diamond, Edge of Autumn into Consider, and get themselves a bit further along and probably be able to win. So I think the pick here is the Lion's Eye Diamond rather than the Edge of Autumn. I think they both work here.
Yeah, as I have
doing, but they can't return. They can return the Edge of Autumn with the Tamiyo, but they can't return the Lion's Eye Diamond. And also, if they return the Edge of Autumn, they get +1 mana from the Tamiyo ability, which could be quite important as well. That'll give them the extra blue mana they need. So I think the Lion's Eye Diamond is the pick.
Yeah, I agree.
And you know, it's busted, right? It's Black Lotus.
Yep, good card is good.
So they're probably going to minus this and get back a Ponder unless they have the ability to just win the game now. Okay. So we have a Doomsday pile here. They only have Edge of Autumn in hand. So they Edge of Autumn to draw like a mana source. So probably Lion's Eye Diamond. Then they Tamiyo minus get back this Edge of Autumn. And then they can crack the LED and then they can cycle this. So I guess the truth was it didn't really matter what we did there. I guess if we take the Edge of Autumn, they can probably still work a different pile. Yeah, so they just have this line here where they just get to go through and they can... Okay, they're doing it a little bit differently to how I thought they were going to do it. But again, when you can just set up your deck however you want, it doesn't really matter. They're just doing a really big cycle pile and we'll just let them have it. Okay, so how do you think we should be sideboarding in this particular matchup?
Well, I guess we have a few cards we can easily take out, which is probably the Pithing Needle because there's no good targets to name here. I also assume they won't have many answers post-board to our Merit Later, which Not of This World helps against. I guess I could maybe have Sheoldred's Edict, but the Not of This World is not going to help us anyway.
So what do we want from the sideboard, do you think?
Well, I guess we would definitely want the Disruptor Flutes as easily the best card we can bring in here, and the Collector Roof against their artifact-based lines or piles is probably also good. Then we also could cut the Bojuka Bog because it has not really text here, I guess.
It sometimes does stuff against Tamiyo, but again, it's not something we ever want to be spending tutors on finding because then we're just going further away from our own plan, and that's probably not good for us.
And it comes into play tapped. So I think Ghost Quarter could maybe be good to force them to shuffle their pile.
Sometimes they will set up a pile that doesn't have enough lands in if you can Ghost Quarter them once as well. Or you can Ghost Quarter and Boseiju, and then that could be enough.
And the Sejiri Step could also have some text to get through a blocking Tamiyo, maybe. So maybe that is.
They might have some interaction as well. So, what do you think we should fill this last card slot with from the sideboard?
So, we talked about this at some point in the past, and Abrupt Decay is probably a card we can bring in case they have some kind of transformational sideboard plan and to remove some Baragorths or something along those lines.
Or just removing like a Tamiyo blocking to get through for that one turn. It's just like an additional sort of Sejiri Step in some situations where it just gets you through the Tamiyo or whatever.
The question is if we want to bring more decays at the cost of Not of This World, or if we want to leave those 3 in.
So I don't mind taking a second decay here and keeping just the 2 Not of This Worlds in. Although what we can do is we could swap the Not of This Worlds in for a couple of Safekeepers, because Safekeepers do a similar job to Not of This World, but they also can clock your opponent a little bit. And every point of damage that you can stop from your opponent who's a Doomsday player can matter in terms of how they can cycle and stuff.
Also,
so it's unlikely to be... Sorry, go on.
Yeah. So also we could sacrifice a Safekeeper to Edict.
If they're playing the Sudden Edict and stuff like that. So it sometimes comes up. All right, we will give this a whirl. This is obviously not an ideal matchup for us. Okay, what do you think of this one?
Well, what I like is that we can do a turn 2 combo with Urborg into Dark Depths and Vampire Hexmage, so this is quite quick, but it does not interact with what our opponent is doing. So they could, in theory, be faster than us, and then we couldn't do anything about it. So what we probably would like to have access to would be Discard or a Disruptor Flute.
Do you think it's worth mulling away from the turn 2 combo on the play to find those things?
Well, I guess yes.
I would personally just keep this and put my opponent to the test. Because we can also do this uncounterably, because we can play Dark Depths on 1 and then play Thespian Stage on 2, use these 2 and just have an uncounterable 20/20 on turn 2. And maybe that won't be good enough. But if we mulligan, we're probably going to end up with a slower hand that may only have like 1 piece of disruption at best. And if we mulligan to disruption, we can't also guarantee mulligan to disruption and our combo. So I like just putting our opponent to the test here.
Yeah, then let's do this. You obviously have much more experience with the matchup, so sounds good.
So yeah, I think we play the Dark Depths on 1 here because this allows us to do the Urborg into Hexmage, or we can just do Thespian Stage into Double Spirit Guide. And that gives us the most options for having a combo go either way, depending on if we get Thoughtseize or not.
Yeah, that's very reasonable.
And we're not going to need a crop rotation on turn 1. They're not like a graveyard deck, and we don't have Bojuka Bog in, even if they were. So there is a Doomsday deck that pivots into Reanimator, which is pretty interesting. So another thing I like about this Thespian Stage line that we can take is our opponent won't see it coming, because they're not going to necessarily expect us to have double Spirit Guide in hand. So they might tap out for something in their turn, and that just gives us a free wallop into them. They might think they have one more turn. Sorry?
Also, it's uncounterable too, so...
Yeah, so we just have like a pretty clean line here that should hopefully do some work, because it's very unlikely to me that they're going to hold up 2-mana interaction this turn. Okay. They are going for the holding up 2-mana interaction. Does that change anything? I don't think it does. Because we have Urborg, we can just go again with this. And if our opponent is given lots of time, they will assemble their combo and kill us. So I reckon we just go for it here. Do you okay with that?
Yeah, I agree.
All right. There you go.
That worked out.
But if it doesn't work out, your opponent is expending resources and has less stuff in their hands, so maybe it's going to be hard for them to go off. So another little quick talk about Pithing in this matchup. You can have it in for the Tamiyo and for the Cyclers, but I do not like this, especially when we have this build with Disruptor Flutes, which can do that if we need to, whilst also doing other things and better. I just thought it was worth mentioning that to the lovely viewers at home. So I think we just go back in again. It's obviously a lot more difficult for us to win this one on the draw, but hopefully our little back and forth is useful for the viewers at home. All right, how do you feel about this hand?
Well, I guess we can't keep this. It has interaction, but it has the wrong half of the combo. Also, having the Serigi step in hand, it's mulligan to 6 anyways, so I wouldn't keep this.
I fully agree with you. What about this one?
I mean, it also does not have access to Dark Depths, but it could play a turn 1 Flute or Collector Oof, so this is more appealing, I guess. But on the other hand, if we do this, we are only top decking and hoping to get good stuff, so maybe we should go to 5.
So if we were to keep this one, I'm just hypothetically speaking here, so we would probably like just have Duress on 1, and then Flute on 2, possibly Collector Roof, and then try and beat down with it. We're on the draw, so we're going to see another card. This would be we can disrupt our opponent with these tools and then beat them with just, whatever's left over, would be the approach on this one. Now, I'm not a big fan of that approach unless, like, the Collector Roof is like a big haymaker against their deck. So if they're like, I would keep something like this if we're playing against, like, Karnforge or something. But I think you're right that we should probably mulligan this one in this particular matchup. Okay, yeah. No lands, so this is a multi-4. Oh dear. It's all a little bit awkward here.
We have Once Upon a Time, so maybe we have 1 land, but that's not a good place to start. Also, no 1-mana stuff we can do apart from crop rotation, so 3 it is, I guess.
Yeah, not great, but okay, there you go. Our deck makes a turn 2 2020.
Yeah. I mean, for a multi-3, it's very good, right?
Yeah, I think that's going to beat a reasonable percentage of draws in Legacy anyway, which is one of the strengths of our deck. We can mulligan deep and still get there.
And maybe we top deck a discard spell that would be very good here. So yeah, like
Magic. This game is so easy, right? It's just the easiest game I've ever played. Okay, so we have a Thoughtseize. They're probably going to Brainstorm and Protect, or they'll Veil of Summer here if they're on the green build. We haven't really seen green. Oh, we did. There we go. They had green in their pile. Okay, so there is the Veil of Summer. No Thoughtseizes is allowed. But this is not a great land for helping them cast Doomsday, so that might set them back in other ways. So what we like to draw here is a Thespian Stage, so we can just go Hexmage and send it this turn. If that doesn't work, we can go the next turn. But we don't have a lot of agency in this game, which is what happens when you mulligan to 3. Do you think we should play around days, or do you think we should try and send it now?
Well, do they keep the days against us? I'm not sure, to be honest, but in case they daze us, it's also set them back a turn, and we can always top deck another Hexmage or Thespian Stage, so I would be inclined to go for it.
Okay. I think that's perfectly reasonable. Like, also, they've got 6 cards in hand. We need to win before they can leverage those 6 cards. If we give them time to leverage those 6 cards, they will beat us. Okay, so we've got 2 cards out of our opponent. They pitched a Daze.
They had the Daze.
They didn't want to play into a potential Spirit Guide there, and they also maybe didn't want to bounce a land. Now, our Urborg is helping them out with their mana here.
Yeah, that's true, sadly.
Which is really good for them, because their deck is just a mono-blue deck with a black card in it. So we'll see what they can rustle up with this Brainstorm. We don't want to see any sort of ritual effect.
Or Lotus Petal.
Got him. There we go. I'll take that 2-3 life. It's unlikely to matter. Okay,
Oh.
this game of Magic the Gathering. Boy, howdy, is it easy.
Always had it.
But to be fair, our entire deck is dedicated to doing this. Like, we had a reasonable amount of hits that would have worked. And like, if we'd have drawn crop rotation, we would have been able to do this same thing as well. I have to imagine our opponent's hand has other counterspells in, because they're not comboing us. They've only fired off 1 Thoughtseize. Like, what does their hand do here? They must have, like, Veils and Thoughtseize and stuff, because they're not cantripping to the maximum amount they can every turn. Like, if they were just looking for stuff. It felt like that Thoughtseize they were firing off was just like, you know, we've got nothing better to do with our mana, let's fire off the Thoughtseize, rather than if I were them and I had any sort of cantrip, I would probably just go for it. And just try and dig our way to the combo.
But I would assume the kind of interaction they have is Force, Daze, and maybe Force Negation, so it's all free interaction.
Our opponent seems unhappy with the situation they found themselves in.
Yeah, Shuffler's not kind to them.
And you draw the only card that wins. Cool. Well, we have lots of these cards in our deck, and our deck is entirely dedicated to do stuff. So we managed to get that one on a multi 3. We have to get a little bit lucky there, but this is a bad matchup anyway, so yeah, we took it home. Let's go to round 2. For the best Eternal experience this summer, check out Eternal Mania in Hasselt, Belgium from August 8th to 10th. Aside from hosting the European Legacy Masters, they have a whole host of other tournaments from team trios to old school and pre-modern. I will be there playing Legacy and hanging out as a special guest. This will also be the first event that I'll be giving out my own special Marit Lage tokens, so why not come down to enjoy an awesome weekend ran by one of the best TOs in Europe. Alright, we are on the draw for round number 2. This is our opener. What do you think of this one?
Well, I think this is a solid hand. We have Dark Depths and Urborg, so if in case we draw a Vampire Hexmage, we can go for it. And also we have crop rotation to get another combo piece and turn 1 into action with Thoughtseize. And also Once Upon a Time to round out our draw, so nothing not to like, I guess.
Yeah.
We will be weak to Wasteland, probably.
But we can always fire the crop rotation off if they try and wasteland us as well. And we get to Thoughtseize our opponent first, so we can see what's coming and make sure that we can resolve the things we need to. So, yeah, hand looks pretty good to me. So there is a question here as to whether or not we play the Urborg before we play the Once Upon a Time. Now, how many times have you seen anyone counter a turn 1 Once Upon a Time?
I think it's quite rare. Also, we have good plays turn 1, so even if they decide to counter this, we are probably happy with it.
So we could play the Urborg first. I think they're more likely to counter this if they see the Urborg, because they know what we're doing. Right.
Hexmage is easy pick here.
Easy peasy. So we just get to do the classic Turbo Depths thing. Let's have a little look at your hand over there, opponent. They didn't shuffle with Ponder, so they might be floating something good on top they didn't want discarded. That's always something to be aware of here. But they obviously don't know what the matchup is. So, generic key things. Fire Ice. Fire Ice,
Wow.
Force of Will. What are they doing?
Haven't seen this in a hot minute.
Fire Ice.
In Rhinos, I saw this last, I think, but it's not common. Also, they had Ponder, so can't be Rhinos.
I wonder what Fire and Ice is in order of. Maybe they're like a Corosteel Cutter and they're just running the Fire Ice because they think it's an interesting... You know, it can cantrip, so it can help you do stuff. It can tap down a big guy to get your swings of damage through. That would be where my brain is roughly at in terms of what our opponent might be doing. So they really wanted to protect what they were doing.
And they're not tapping out.
So how would you play this turn?
So I think the question is whether we just play the Vampire Hexmage or try to Thoughtseize again. I guess we can do both on the same turn.
We can do both on the same turn.
We can actually. So, well, you think if we utilize crop rotation with the average spirit guide, I guess. But I would, in any case, play Thoughtseize before any other thing. But I would play Dark Depth so we can play around days, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, so I reckon we fire off this Thoughtseize here. Our opponent's got 4 cards. What have you got there? You are brainstorming. Sure. Hopefully we'll get a feel at what sort of deck our opponent is after we fire this Thoughtseize off. So we have to consider, do we want this crop rotation to just let us go right now? Or do we want this crop rotation to be protection? Okay, so our opponent is a blue-red like Wizards deck. So this is not really a deck that does a lot in terms of interacting with Marit Lage. So what are you thinking with this Thoughtseize?
So, my first thought is that we can probably make Marit Lage's turn independent of what we pick. And when we do it now, we would probably try to take the Tamiyo because it's the blocker that I can play to buy another turn.
Yeah, I'm on exactly the same page as you on this one. So we take the Tamiyo, so pop this up here so we can keep an eye on what else is happening here. So we can crop rotate this Urborg into
another Urborg, right? And
well, it doesn't have to be an Urborg, because we can tap this for black first. And then we can turn this into like a Bayou.
Oh, that's even better, yeah.
And then we end up with a slightly better line. So we'll crop rotate here. When do you think we should activate our Vampire Hexmage?
I'm AFK for 2 minutes, be right back. So the barking has diminished, I'm back.
Okay. So when do you think we should pop this Hexmage?
Well, I think it's not unreasonable to assume our opponent could have Wastelands. So we should probably do it in upkeep.
Okay. So the reason why I like your suggestion of the upkeep here is we get to see what they do with this fetch land, if they're keeping the card that they brainstormed away or not. Do you think we just go for it here and risk the fact they might have a Swords to Plowshares on top, or do you think we hold?
Well, I think I would wait until the upkeep still.
So we're in their upkeep now. What do you reckon? Should we make the 2020
Yeah,
or should we
let's make it now.
Okay. So they might have put the plow on top because our opponent has access to. So the Wizards deck might be a Jeskai build. So they might have a plow. So they might have just drawn that, and because we showed them some of the elements that look a lot like. There we go. Here we go. So we showed them elements that was very Turbodepsy, right? Because we showed them the Hexmage early doors with the Once Upon a Time.
Well, yeah.
So they would have had an indication that we were doing that. I still think it's right to test them, but it does look a bit awkward when that happens. We'll play at the Thespian stage. If they Wasteland, we can then use this Spirit Guide to copy their basic.
Yeah. So this part of our combo is safe at least.
So we will have to get through this Snapcaster Mage as well.
Yeah, that's a bit not so good.
But our deck is designed to try and beat through the stuff our opponents bring to the table. This is always going to be a horrible matchup game 1 anyway. So I think taking your chances and hoping they don't have it is a reasonable place to be. Here's a Tamiyo. Not really what we want to see. Let's see if we can find a little Dark Depths action. Okay. The Duress isn't ideal, but I think... Do you think we should fire off this Duress now, or do you think we should wait?
So I would be inclined to wait here. The thing we know about and which worries us is the Snapcaster Mage, and we can take it with a Duress. And I would rather wait until we are ready to combo again to then remove some removal left found in the meantime, like a Swords to Plowshares.
Yep, I am fully on board with that. I think that's the correct thing to do. But this is going to slip away from us over the course of a few turns while our opponent just keeps accruing card advantage here. If this was a Thoughtseize, I'd feel a lot happier about the situation. Because we could just take the Snapcaster Mage and then be in a better position. But at some point, they're going to flip this Tamiyo, which can then rebuy the Swords to Plowshares. And then we're kind of in the dirt there, really, as I like to say.
Not even sure what is better for us if they draw 2 cards each turn or if they flip the Tamiyo because they going to ultimate real quick.
A Lotus Petal.
I would not play that.
We could deploy Spirit Guide here. and just have something that can potentially pressure the Tamiyo. The issue with that is they kind of have like a free answer for it already in this, so it doesn't really feel like it's going to be particularly useful. Did you say you wanted to play the Lotus Petal or hold it?
No, I was saying I wouldn't play it because they probably have Prismatic Ending or something like this.
They also have the Flame Vanor, so they can draw 2 cards and blow it up. So whichever thing we play, they blow it up and draw 2 cards. So it's not a nice situation for us. So they're probably just going to crack a clue, I would imagine. There we go. They've got a little bit of surveil action, so they're going to be digging deeper into their deck for more Swords to Plowshares. It's times like this where I just would like my opponent to hurry up and kill us. But I have won games from this position many times before as well. We should have done this last turn where we just turn this into a Bayou so we have more green mana. It's just a little thing. Okay, so we have the Dark Depths.
So we are still not safe to combo because they can buy back the Swords to Plowshares they have in their graveyard already.
Yep.
The question is, I don't know how the list is composed. Do they run Wastelands usually?
I don't think a build that's running these 2 Surveil lands is going to be running Wastelands.
So it would be kind of free to play the Dark Depths
I think it's okay to play the Dark Depths out here. And what this means is our opponent has to hold up 3 mana the entire time. So this is kind of like a Super Richard Port. Now, they have stuff that plays at instant speed, which obviously doesn't help us out very much here. But we at least have something going on. And because we have extra mana here, we can try and do like a little flurry of activity where we get to fire off a Duress, and maybe if we can find a Thoughtseize, do that as well. So this game is very winnable still.
Yeah, we have to kind of overload them in one turn.
But they can hold up their 3 mana and crack a clue now. Okay, so they're going for flipping the Tamiyo this turn so they can buy back the Swords to Plowshares next turn.
So this probably also shows they have the Swords to Plowshares already, right?
Yeah, that would be my impression of the situation. So
Otherwise,
we have some interesting options here.
so I guess we can kill the Tamiyo using the Vampire Hexmage to prevent them from buying back.
We can play basically our entire hand here if we want to. So I think.
So yeah, if we do this, we would probably duress first, right, to not have our Hexmage countered.
Yep, I agree with you. So let's fire off this Duress. And maybe this last Spirit Guide in hand, our opponent won't play around it, and they might give us the window. So they already have a Swords to Plowshares here. That's obviously something I don't really want to have to play against. Snapcaster Mage, there's a lot here, isn't there? Do you think it's more important to take this plow or to make sure that we kill their Tamiyo?
Well, the Tamiyo is worth 1 plow anyways, but I guess if we don't kill the Tamiyo this turn, it can rebuy multiple things over multiple turns, so it's probably better to kill it now.
I agree. So if we tap like this... Oh, actually, add black mana off my Bayou would help, wouldn't it? So if we fire this in... I think we just fire it off right now and not mess about. And I believe we play out this Lotus Petal. So if our opponent gives us a random window where we can try and fire this off, we can because we have the spare mana. So our opponent might think this is a turn where they get to tap out maybe Lauren Revealed or like kick a Thundertrap Trainer, and then we can sneak a little 20/20 in. They shouldn't do that, but when you're in a horrible matchup, you have to play to your outs. And sometimes your out is your opponent not making the best choices. Teferi... Okay, that's another annoying card. Cool. So this shuts off things like Not of This World as well. Okay, we have a Pithing Needle, so we can shut off the Teferi at least. But it's not great, is it?
We still would have to kill it to have any kind of protection, be it Crop Rotation or Not of This World.
Yeah. It's not looking spectacular for us.
But on the other hand, they have no pressure right now.
But, so they don't really get to cast anything at their end step unless they're going to... Okay, so they're just going to cycle this rather than draw 3 cards with it. That's interesting. I guess once we've Pithing Needle the Teferi, the idea of just holding up and then doing that in our end step is gone, so it kind of makes some sense. All right, so I think we're just looking at our opponent probably playing a counterbalance this turn. Okay, a Thundertrap Trainer. So this is just like Impulse, basically, isn't it? Impulse for a non-creature, non-land. So it's a NASA activation on a guy. So they found a Force of Will. Do you want to continue playing this game, or do you want to go to the sideboard?
I would say there's no shame in conceding here.
We'll take one more
Yeah.
draw, but I'm quite happy. Like, for the purposes of people watching this at home, it's probably not very exciting to watch us lose so slowly. This is actually quite interesting, because this is something we can do around Teferi. It's uncounterable, and our opponent probably does have more white sources they can find if we besage them, is the only issue. How many? So they've got 1, 2, 3. They're going to have at least another Tundra in there. I don't think this is going to be enough. I think we should just save our time here because we're taking a lot longer to play at the moment because we're talking through everything so much. So how do you feel about sideboarding here?
Well, it would be certainly a good idea to get extra protection, so not of this world and Seven Safekeeper.
Agreed.
We didn't see Wastelands, but the Planeswalkers could be a reason to keep in Pithing Needles, but we would have to see which cuts we can make. But Jugabok is probably an easy cut. They have Snapcaster Mage, but I don't think we want to keep this in for a long game. As the Jerry Step is good, Ghost Quarter, I'm not sure if they can have Caracas, where we maybe won't have to have this in.
So it's certainly something that you can think about cutting here. So what we could do, you were mentioning about the Pithing Needles, we could just upgrade them into like Disruptor Flutes, because this can name Swords to Plowshares, and 4 mana Swords to Plowshares we can play around very easily.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. And then, yeah, I don't think we want to have Abrupt Decay. It answers things like Teferi, but if we prepare for a longer game, that's maybe not a good idea. I think we want to go under them, right?
And at the end of the day, there's only so many cards you get to take out of this deck and have it still function. I think a lot of people try and overboard, say, oh, I want all the things that are useful. But when you have a deck like this where you need your critical mass of all your pieces, it just becomes awkward if you take anything else out. So I think this is what we're going with.
And we don't want to cut the Once Upon a Times because we are getting the Safekeepers in, so there's not many other things we can reasonably cut.
The Once Upon a Time is also a tool that helps us generally go faster. Since I've been playing the Once Upon a Time builds, the average combo turn is like 0.7 faster. So it's 0.7 turns faster, roughly, on average over the course of the amount of games I've played. So it's definitely worth having in for trying to go underneath opponents. So how do you feel about this hand?
Well, it has a Dark Depths, and we can get a stage with Seven Scrying, but we don't have access to black mana, so it's a bit clunky. We could also try to scry for the Urborg, but I guess we can do something less clunky with a mulligan to 6.
I agree. Okay, this is a weird hand.
Well, it does not have a clear path to Dark Depth, which is not a good place to start. Then it has some protection and disruption in Not of This World Duress and Disruptor Flute, but I think with keeping this hand we settle for a longer game because we maybe have to longer have to look for the other piece, and I don't think we want to play the longer game, right?
So if we change up how we think about how our deck functions in this matchup. So in a matchup like this, we're not just Dark Depths plus a thing to enable it to win this matchup. We are Dark Depths, a thing to enable it, and a piece of protection. Our opponent is not going to keep a hand that can't interact with our Marilage. So if you think of it like we have like 2 of our combo pieces, 2 of our 3 combo pieces, and something that can dig a little bit. If you think of it like that instead, then does that change the way that you assess this hand?
Well, if we look at it like this, it's probably better, and I would keep anything but a Lotus Petal. And then
I'm just trying to work out if I want to. I think you're right on the Lotus Petal. It could be awkward if we draw like some tutors and stuff, but this might hit green mana anyway if it doesn't find us the Dark Depths. So I think the Lotus Petal does end up being better. And like you said, we don't necessarily want to settle into a long game, but our hand here can do that. So we should probably just try and roll with what tools we have access to. Okay.
yeah,
How do you
that's
feel
about-
Well, hello there, Dark Depths.
I guess that's an easy pick. Also, I also probably would like to have the Safekeeper, but the Dark Depths has priority here. So then,
And-
yeah, Urborg plus Duress, it is, I guess, because
And then we
want to
can
be
turn to
mana
Disruptor
efficient.
Flute and then take out something else. So what do you think is the pick here?
Yeah,
We
to
had
be
to have a lot
honest,
of choices, but is it one of the best cards in the entire format, or is it this card? We'll take the Breath
yeah,
Storm. This
let's take
also
the
means that
Brainstorm,
we
yeah.
know what our opponent's working with as well. So that makes our life a little bit easier to sort of check the boxes of what we need to be worried about.
Yeah, it searches for Swords to Plowshares, it flips their Tamio, it does a lot of things for them.
I assume this is just going to be the Tamio. So I believe we play out... So we haven't seen a Wasteland. We could potentially play around a Wasteland here by playing Thespian Stage. But they already know we have the Dark Depths anyway. So maybe we can hold this as a surprise.
And with playing the Dark Depths, we also enable Vampire Hexmage as a draw for next turn.
Yeah, so we have like different options available. So I think we want the Depths here. Should we play Disruptor Flute now, or should we play it in their turn?
Well, I guess we would be naming Swords to Plowshares with it, as it's their best answer. And if we do this, we only want to do it just before we go off, so we could do it during their turn, so they maybe use some of their resources on their turn to handle it.
So we could do it in their upkeep here and see if they want to cycle this in case we name this. Obviously, they should know that we're not naming this, but you can always open up possibilities for your opponent to make mistakes. So you could fire it off now, or we could fire it off at the end step. Or we could fire it off in response to something.
So at the moment, they only have one unknown card, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this would have to be exactly Force of Will or Daze. But
Spell Pierce possibly is a thing in their deck.
Yeah, so the chances of resolving it are higher if we do it now.
I think it is more important to have it resolved, right?
Yeah, it's probably better than them having used resources to handle it. We would play somewhere this turn anyway, so we have our mana free for next turn, so it's probably good to do it now.
This is a reason why I like things that you play to protect your combo that come down before you combo, because having the additional mana is like a whole turn cycle, whereas just playing this on turn 2 and then turn 3 we go is so much better than... So I always get lots of questions like, oh, why don't you run Legolas's Quick Reflexes? But that makes our mana sometimes a 4 mana combo, which is a lot, whereas we can run things that protect it beforehand, like Pith Needles, Disruptor Flutes, or Discard, and then run things like Not of This World that protects it afterwards, like whilst we've gone off, without costing us mana. So just for the people who like to comment, I don't get that many comments about that anymore, but I used to get a lot more of like, oh, why aren't we playing Quick Reflexes? And there's a good reason for it. Now, Quick Reflexes is good, and it's pretty reasonable in a matchup like this as well. Okay, so they did not shuffle Ponder. That is an interesting thing for us to be aware of. So, play our land out here. This is, this turn pretty much plays itself. Deciding when to combo off and if we combo off is another interesting thing here. But I think we see what they do, right? And then go from there.
The question is, what do we do with second Disruptor Flute, and is there anything we would want to name before we combo, or if you just send it this turn?
Okay, so we have a Thundertrap Trainer. This gives us the ability to see what they're getting, so that makes our things potentially a little bit better. So they have a Flame of Anor here. This can blow up our Disruptor Flutes, which is an important thing to note. So another thing as well, whenever someone holds back with their Tamio, it usually means they don't have an immediate answer right there and then as well.
So what we could do is make Merit Lage now, and then play possibly second Disruptor Flute during our turn. Also naming Swords to Plowshares, so they only can kill one.
Mm-hmm.
But they also could get to 4 mana next turn, and we have the Not of This World for this.
Yep, I think we just attack first and make sure we get this Tammy off the board, and then just enjoy our second Disruptor Flute. I don't think we do it in our opponent's upkeep or anything. We just don't want to have a window where Swords to Plowshares cost less. We're going to have to play a little bit faster here because of the clock here. But our deck doesn't take a very long time to pilot. I just might be asking you less questions. So they have a Flame of Anor into Swords to Plowshares line. But we have the Not of This World to cover it. Now, this is the thing that is just going to beat us straight up, though. Because we don't get to Not of This World this. This is why Sylvan Safekeeper is so much better in this matchup than Not of This World. All right. We're in a horrible position, as is tradition against the the Jeskai control decks.
Yeah, Teferi is like super bad from the things they could have.
Yep. I'm not going to bother
we can-
removing counters manually off this because I don't think this game is going to take that long.
I was about to ask about this.
Also, we only have like 7 and a bit minutes left, so I'd rather not waste my time clicking through this. It's unlikely to be a thing that matters. Like, I have won games by actually making the 2020 for 30 mana before. But I don't think this is a matchup where it's going to matter that much. Our opponent's going to be having loads of access to stuff. So they're going to be able to flip their Tamiyo now. So if they do find a Source of Plowshares, that's 2 Source of Plowshares we need to get through, and our Not of This World doesn't work in the face of the Teferi. Things are looking grim. Okay. Do they have the Source of Plowshares? That is the next question. So they have... this is one that went away, I think, isn't it? So they have the Snapcaster Mage and Mystery cards, I believe. Okay. Now, Prismatic Ending is also on to kill our creatures because of Teferi, if they have that.
Yeah.
Getting back a Force of Negation. That's an interesting one. So this is to protect their hand from Thought Seizers. Flage. This will also put them above 20 life.
20, yeah.
I think we can just call it a day here. So decks that have like Teferi, a bunch of plows, counter magic, and ways of putting themselves above 20 is just a bit too much for us to handle sometimes. Now, we do win this matchup sometimes. You know, it's not unwinnable, but it is not the nicest. All right, on to round number 3. Whilst I may not play Pauper, I know a lot of you lovely people out there do. So I thought I'd let you know about a great charity Pauper tournament happening in upstate New York on the 21st of June. The tournament is in support of the Trevor Project and Trans Lifeline, so sign up to help a worthy cause and have fun doing it. It's a troubling time for our trans comrades out there, so show them that you've got their back. Click the link in the description of this video for more details. Okay, on to round 3. What do you think of our opening hand?
Well, it has some route to the combo, but I think it's quite clunky. We would have to play Sylvan Scrying if Once Upon a Time does not find us one of the combo pieces, and we don't have interaction early on, so I think as it's a 7, we could do better.
I agree. Okay, so this one is going to rely on this Once Upon a Time finding us land, and even in that case, it's not going to work. And I think we can all safely... I don't think that much of a discussion needs to be had on that one. What about this one?
Well, I think this has some merit to it. We have a Urwok and a Stage and a Crop Rotation to find us the Dark Depths. So also turn 1 interaction and insulation against Wasteland. So it's very good. What is probably the harder part is what to bottom here.
Mm-hmm.
Because I like all those things.
This would be a great 7, but alas.
Yeah, indeed. So we don't know what our opponent is playing, so we don't know if we need the needle. I think I would maybe bottom the Petal first. Also, Fast Mana is good in our deck, and it's our only green source for crop rotation, so maybe not.
I think
Yeah,
Inquisition is the
maybe-
most generically useful card out of these 3. So I think we're definitely keeping the Inquisition. And
Yeah,
we obviously have to keep these 3. So it means we're getting rid of 2 out of these 2 and the Petal. And you mentioned this is our only green source, so we're kind of locked into keeping this. So we kind of just have to get rid of these and hope that we free roll and don't get hit by Wastelands.
yeah.
But we do get to at least crop rotate the Urborg away if something goes wrong. Oh, okay, it might not matter anyway. Cool.
Maybe we get a new 7.
Yeah,
Soon.
maybe just draw a really nice 7 here, yeah. So it's going to be... Okay, Ancient Tomb. Is this going to be like Mono Black Saga Storm? Have you got enough Lion's Eye Diamonds there, opponent? They had the Echo, which isn't really a surprise. Okay. This hand is, you know, it can do some stuff if we get a turn. Rite of
But
Flame.
It looks like it's a big if.
Sometimes you're going to lose on turn 1 to people on the draw, and that's okay. Like, at least this isn't like a deck that is... Like, if we'd have had a Force of Will, then their whole hand collapses, right? So it's not like something like Oops All Spells, which has more layers of redundancy and is easier to have protection and go off with. So I don't mind losing to Storm on turn 1. It doesn't happen that often. Okay. They've got plenty of mana over there. And they're almost up to lethal storm count, so anything like a Burning Wish is just lethal here.
My thought about us having Thoughtseize is if they have any kind of business spell, they have enough mana to play it, and if they only have non-business stuff, it's not too important to discard, so maybe Thoughtseize isn't even so good into them if they pass a turn.
Stormscale Scion. Okay, so that's a lot. I think we just concede here and don't show them anything of our deck.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you like in this matchup?
Well, Collector Oof comes to mind. It seems
Very
like
much so.
like an easy pick. Then, if they rely heavily on the graveyard to have their Echo of Eon's lines, we will probably want to have Leyline of the Void.
What do you not like in our main deck against our opponent?
I think Pissing Needle could come out. They surely won't have Wastelands, and I'm not sure they have anything we can reasonably name with it. In terms of protection spells, maybe Not of This World could be a cut because I don't think they will board inbound spells. They will probably try to be faster than us.
I agree. Is there any lands that you think we could take out? Do you think we need the Ghost Quarter?
Probably we don't need it, and I'm also thinking we probably don't need the Bojuka Box because we don't have a window to remove the Echo of Eons.
So ordinarily I would agree with you, but in the last set they printed a new like Past in Flames variant that a lot of these Storm decks are running, so I would try and keep the Bojuka Box for this matchup. We've got two more slots to fill anyway, so we got two more cards.
Disruptor Flute maybe could be a good thing, assuming we know what to name in any given situation. But it's also almost a good card, almost always a good card against scans.
Like we have Hand Disruption as well, so we can sort of see and take a little peek. Yeah, I agree with this. It's just like 8 sort of cards out. What do we think about this one?
Well, comparing it to the last hand, we had Collector Roof in and said we could maybe do better. I would be inclined to keep it here because of the turn 1 Oof. We have at least one half of the combo and also Disruptor Flute on top, so I think we have to be in the control role here.
Yep, I agree with you. This is exactly like the difference between how Leyline of the Void is just... Okay. What land do you think we play out, though? That is an interesting one.
Well, I think if we play Urborg, we have the chance of drawing... Oh no, we can't draw Dark Depths and Hex Match turn 2. In this case, maybe it's Stage, which gives us a fast route to the combo because we have 2 pieces of fast mana. And then, but we have to use 1 piece now. So,
I think the truth of the matter is it doesn't particularly matter a great deal on this particular turn. Urborg might help our opponent cast something like a Dark Ritual, so I'm more inclined to play out the Thespian Stage.
Yeah.
And then we'll use the Lotus Petal to cast the Collector Roof, since it's not going to work when the Collector Roof is around. Alright. Are we just going to turn this sideways 10 times? That is the plan. We can
Nothing wrong with
We've also got a Spirit Guide that can come in and beat down. I don't win many games by beating down with like Collector Roofs and Spirit Guides. Definitely won more when Karn Forge was more popular. That was kind of the main way of winning that matchup, was just stick your Collector Roofs and then like Pithing Needle their Urza Saga and their Karn, and then that's the game.
The thing is, if the question remains if they have any other engine besides Echo of Eons which can help them accelerate into their combo turn. If not, we are probably in a good spot.
So, like, Beseech the Mirror might be a possibility. Although the Rite of Flame that we saw and the Jeska's Will. So we're not looking at like an ordinary Epic Storm build.
It's more like Ruby Storm.
So I think, for the same purposes that we didn't play Urborg last time, the difference here is that we could draw a Dark Depths next time. But if we do that, we can use this fast mana from the Elvish Spirit Guide to do it. Yeah, so I think we're probably just fine playing this and the Cracking for 2. What do we name with the old Disruptor Flute is the question here.
The question is, do we play Disruptor Flute in our opponent's turn, or do we rather wait to see if we find a disruption spell?
So I guess we see if our opponent does anything first, and then we can maybe like interact with them halfway up their curve. Like if they look like they're setting up for a Beseech the Mirror, we can maybe name the Beseech the Mirror early. All right, they're just going to scoop to the Collector Roof, and that's okay for us. I don't think we change anything. We just go back in. What you can do, because we've boarded... actually, no, ignore me. I was thinking about something else. Let's just go in. So previous builds of this that I've played have had 3 collector roofs in. We've cut 1 collector roof for Disruptor Flute because the Disruptor Flute is more universally useful, whereas collector roof is just very, very good in a smaller, narrower selection of matchups. But this is obviously one of the matchups where we'd like to have the 3rd collector roof instead of this 3rd Disruptor Flute. So it's interesting for my own development of the deck whether or not it's right to have 3 flutes, or we should have 1 flute in the main, 1 flute in the board, and then a 3rd collector roof. Have you got any thoughts on that?
Well, the question is how many decks there are in the meta, or how many percent of the meta are decks which we want to have collector oof, and I think it's a smaller percentage than the one where we can apply the Disruptor Flute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're right.
But as we have seen, the collector oof is pretty powerful if it's good. So I guess the numbers have to decide this. I guess you're having a kind of spreadsheet or anything like this to crunch up the numbers.
Yeah, I do a lot of data analysis on the old Patreon about what the meta looks like, how many decks. Like, I collate all the top 8s and then plot them against their presence in the meta, so I can see how overrepresented decks are in the top 8 as well. So then you can work out, what not only what people are playing, but also what is doing well. And I tend to gear my decks towards beating the decks that are doing well. And if you happen to get paired against like a deck that's not doing very well in the meta but is a horrible matchup for you, then that's life. You can't play for everything. I'd rather build to win a top 8 and then maybe not get to the top 8 and then do it the other way around, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's probably the right way to do it, because in, let's say, leagues, the field is so wide open and Legacy has so many playable decks, you can't be possibly prepared for everything strange you maybe meet.
Opponents thinking long and hard about their sideboard here.
And I think there are quite a lot of combo decks which are faster than us, so having some number of cards which draw up those matchups is not a bad idea. So and both Flute and Oof do this.
Mm-hmm. I think you were right earlier when you say Flute is going to hit more decks in terms of what the meta looks like right now. But it's always good to keep checking yourself and making sure. Like, the worst thing you can do when you play a lot of Magic is to just get set in your ways and just assume a thing that once was true is still true. All right, how do you feel about our hand?
Well, I must say I like it a lot. The multiple Urboks are not so great, but it's Urbok, Darkness, and Leyline of the Void to start the game with, and once upon a time maybe can find us Stage or a Hexmage, so it's quite a good hand, I'd say.
Or Collector Roof, it can find us as well as a big hit here.
I
think because our opponent's deck killed us turn 1 in game 1, I am inclined to keep a hand that looks like this. I would prefer this Urborg to be like a Thoughtseize, but you can't have it all. Right, so let's say no to Echo of Eons. And that looks like it's going to be our opponent's main reload engine. But they could have something like Song of Creation that they get off of a Beseech the Mirror. All right, they didn't do anything with their turn. So I guess we just, once upon a time, a swing and a miss. A rare swing and a miss on a once upon a time. Okay. What land do you think we should play and why?
I think it's I was about to say it's clearly the Urborg, but then we talked first game about it helps them cast their spells, so it could be Dark Depths. This still allows us to combo if we draw a Vampire Hexmage, but that's
what this also does is if we draw Thespin Stage, we get to combo. I'm just going to play these Lotus Petals out because our opponent is probably going to have discard in their deck. But this means that we can just draw a Thespin Stage and just make a 20/20 next turn, or we can draw a Hexmage. We have 16 draws that win us the game, more or less, because we have eight shooters and then 8 combo pieces to go with this. Now, do we get another turn? Who knows? They might just be playing out this Chromox so they don't have to go to discard because they didn't really want to play anything out last turn, and maybe this Leyline of the Void is causing them some issues. That's what we're hoping here. But if we can draw like a Crop Rotation is pretty good here, or a Hexmage, or a Thespin Stage. The Sylvan Scrying does get us there, but it takes another turn, but that's okay. Okay, so just playing something out, so you don't have to go to discard. Well, would you look at that Thespian stage you've just drawn?
A most welcome sight.
So a big part of playing this deck is working out what your draws can be to get you there. I think a really good person to look at in terms of doing that with other decks is Brian Cook of the Epic Storm, because he knows like how much of his deck will let him win the game at any given moment. So he keeps hand that look completely rubbish to me, but he knows the numbers and knows it's going to work, because he's like, okay, well, we would quite like to draw this. This is the best way we can play this in case you draw these things. And it works out a lot for him. And it worked out a lot for us here. Like if we'd have played slightly different lands, we might have given our opponent another turn. So it's just an interesting thing to think about there. All right, 3 rounds in. Let's go to round number 4. Okay, we're on the play. Round number 4. What do you think of our hand?
Well, I guess it's a clear mulligan.
Yeah. Casting spells is important. Not always. Sometimes we don't ever cast any spells and still win, but we need to be able to do some things. What about this one?
Well, I would mulligan this as well, because it's only hinges on the once upon a time to find us combo pieces.
And this is just not reliable to find us specific pieces, is it? So let's mulligan. Okay, how do you feel about this one? This is a bit of an interesting one, actually.
Well, it has depths and stage, so this is what we could like about it. Then all the colored spells in this hand aren't cast, so we can cast Sylvan Scrying, but we can cast the disruption piece we would like to cast, which is the Inquisition of Kozilek. So if we were to keep it, we would probably bottom the 2 black cards, but I'm not so sure what the Sylvan Scrying is actually doing for us, because, well, we have the combo pieces already. We need 1 more piece of mana, but yeah.
So I think we can certainly get rid of 1 Sylvan Scrying, and our opponent's just mulligan to 5, so I'm not sure how many turns of this game we may be getting to play. So if we get rid of 1 of these black cards, which black card do you think we should get rid of?
I think we should get rid of the Hexmage, because we are further away from casting it, and if we somehow get to a black source, maybe a Lotus Petal, we can throw in the Inquisition.
I fully agree with you. What land do you think we should be playing on our first turn?
I think it would be a Thespian Stage, because it's part of our combo. So, well, the question is what we are going to do turn 2, and if we cast Sylvan Scrying, we need to play Stage on turn 1, so we have 2 mana.
So obviously we're not playing Dark Depths on turn 1 because you have a 2-drop we want to cast. Or we don't necessarily need to cast this, but getting the black mana from it will be helpful. So if we play the Thespian Stage, if we draw any land and we get our Thespian Stage Wasteland, we can just go and get another land anyway. We can get another stage. If we play the Thespian Stage out here and it doesn't get wastelanded, then we can also just draw like a Urborg or whatever, or a Black Source, and that can maybe fire off an Inquisition next turn, which is a very different proposition. So I think I like the stage best here.
Also, if we play the Boseiju and that gets wasted, we can't cast our Scrying, right? But we can cast it. Oh, well, if we get wasted off the stage, we can't cast it anyway. So.
Yeah, no. It's going to be easier for us to cast a green spell if we still have green sources. Our opponent mulliganed to 5 and played a basic Plains. What does that mean? Are they like a stompy deck?
I mean, could be Breakfast. They have 1 basic Plains, I guess.
This is a pretty nice pickup right now.
Yeah, because we didn't cast spells, yeah.
Let's have a look. Okay.
This is at least a green or black source, so I guess we could get a Bayou, right?
So we can have a look at what our opponent's 5-card hand is. Like, if we Sylvan Scrying, there's not really anything that we're Sylvan Scrying for at this stage of the game, really. So,
no,
go on.
I would say play the Word and fetch for Bayou and cast an Inquisition, so we know what we are playing against.
Yep, I agree. Also, getting the Bayou means that we can use this, we can channel this Boseiju later on as well to get rid of something like a Karakas that might be in our opponent's deck, as well as having the Inquisition this turn.
And we are prone to waste it anyways, and I guess if they know we are on Depths build, so if they waste anything, it's probably not our Bayou.
Let's have a little peek. They have got a thing that makes our lands come intact. That's the card we're taking. Okay,
Also,
so
we only have one
and they
tech,
have the
but
Caracas as well.
yeah, so it's good we still have the Boseiju.
So our
But
opponent doesn't get to, well, might not get to deploy anything this turn. We'll see what they
we
draw.
hope they
They're just going to play the Caracas.
Yeah.
A Voice of Victory. Okay, so we didn't care about this one too much. It stops us having, like, Not of This World to defend against Caracas, but we already have an answer to Caracas in our hand. Okay, we have a different answer to Caracas in our hand. That's also nice. So how would you play this turn out?
So, we as you lined out, we have two option in terms of protection, and I may be inclined to like the Pithing Needle more. Do I? Well, if we Boseiju the Caracas, they get another land. They will surely have other basics because they play initiative. So we can't hinder them to play the Seasoned Dungeon in next turn. They have a Witch Enchanter in hand, which could destroy the Needle if they deploy it next turn.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe this makes the Boseiju the better play.
There is also the thing, if our opponent spends next turn playing a Witch Enchanter instead of a Seasoned Dungeoneer, and just lets us develop another piece of mana, that is also an interesting thing we can do. So what I like here is Sylvan Scrying for Ghost Quarter. Play the Ghost Quarter, use that to cast a Pithing Needle, and then we have the Ghost Quarter for the Caracas later if we need it anyway. And then we also have the Pithing Needle in play. So if they play the Witch Enchanter to get rid of our Pithing Needle, it doesn't really matter.
Okay, I didn't even see this line.
That's because you haven't played a million games of this stupid deck that I keep playing. But yeah, so this gives us just the most amount of options. So we have the ability to Ghost Quarter away this land if we need to. We have the ability to make Dark Depths next turn. So our opponent might feel that they have to Witch Enchanter here, which just slows them down. So if I were them, I'd be tempted just to go for the Dungeoneer. Okay, so they're going to blow up our Pithing Needle, and then they're going to attack us for an irrelevant amount of damage. And if they don't draw a land next turn, they can't Seasoned Dungeoneer and hold up the Caracas.
Yeah, this line was very good because it not only gave us a means to remove the Caracas, but also made them play in turn, which not very much brings them closer to win the game.
So we can take 5 this turn. If they have to draw a land if they want to play the Seasoned Dungeoneer. And we can crop rotate now for Urborg and Ghost Quarter, so we can do it all. Now, they might have a Source of Plowshares in their deck. We have to decide if we want to go harder this turn or... Oh, sorry, we can't crop rotate, can we? Because of the Voice of Victory. Sorry. New card. Brain's still getting around this. Of Stompy decks being able to stop me casting my spells in their turn. So what are they going to do here? Okay, so they've got Cavern of Souls. They're going for the Seasoned Dungeoneer line. Is this going to be good enough here? It might be. I think we made a mistake by not getting the Urborg earlier with this. I think we just had the win if we'd have got the Urborg, but the Voice of Victory, I just completely bricked on that in my brain. So this is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 damage? That's not lethal, right? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we're not dead next turn.
I mean, we have to remove the Caracas now, right?
We don't have to do it now if we're going to do... Because we don't get to protect our creature with crop rotation anyway. So we could crop rotate into Urborg and then have this for our opponent's turn. So they're going to hold this up and then we break it at the end step. So this basically means they're unlikely to cast another spell on their turn. So I don't think we need to Ghost Quarter right now.
Then let's see what our draw is for the turn.
Another Seasoned Dungeoneer will kill us. Okay, so we have a Lotus Petal as well. I think we are just going to... Yeah, we should have done this last time. We could have just won the game by now instead. And that's really annoying for me. Okay, let's go and get the Urborg. So we have access to Boseiju and the Ghost Quarter here. Because the Boseiju will only cost us 1 once we have the Marit Legion play. And we can still do that when our opponent has Voice of Victory because it's not casting a spell. We can just make our guy to block as well. So we can take out like the Voice of Victory. or the Witch Enchanter if you want to. Okay, so they're going down the Lost Well. It's really important where we look where they put these cards. They put 2 on the bottom. So this means I'm okay to make a Marit Lage. That's how I read this. But we don't really have a choice because our opponent is just going pretty hard anyway. So, do you think we should make a Marit Lage to block here or not?
So, if we do, we would have to Ghost Quarter before that, right? Removing the Caracas. And then the question is, do we want to see what they explore here? Can it change our decision making? It's another season dungeon here, okay.
So that's on top of their library, isn't it? So we don't have to worry about that this turn. So if... I'm thinking if they have a land here, and they play a land and another seasoned Dungeoneer, they don't get to go to trap, so that doesn't matter anyway.
The question is if they have any sorcery speed removal they could use here, right? This is what matters.
So what sorcery speed removal do we think our opponent's deck could have access to?
I think they have swords, they have solitude, both of which are instant speed, and then isn't there this thing you can is this March of Otherworldly Light or something? I don't know.
That one is an instant. There's the Oblivion Ring, but again, that doesn't matter because it has the flicker mode anyway. But we're always going to be Ghost Quartering this Caracas in combat, so they don't have the mana for their main phase. So we're not ramping them in mana by doing it in their main phase or whatever. So I think we Ghost Quarter here and see if they do anything with the mana.
So yeah, it's basically. But if we can't think of any sorcery speed removal, we could make it here to block, right?
Mm-hmm. Do we want to take... So this is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is not lethal. But we need to find 2 damage. And I'm trying to work out where they could get 2 damage from. I don't think there's a good option for that. Do we... If they have a flying blocker, we basically lose anyway, right? Because they block and then we don't get anywhere. We can't finish them off. And if let's say we block the Voice of Victory this turn, we still take 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then next turn, we can't block this. It comes in for 4, and that's a lethal attack anyway.
Yeah, we are dead anyway.
So I don't think we should be blocking here.
Oh, so we can wait if they do anything relevant. So if they had an instant speed interaction, it's not good for us anyway.
Yeah, we kind of just have to sort of take our licks. So they have the lands here. Given the amount of pressure our opponent has, we don't really have a choice. We have to just make our Marit Lage.
And see
with their next turn. We might just gain 20 life, and then maybe we can reassemble the combo again, but it might be difficult under this sort of pressure. Did you draw a plow? They shouldn't go to our turn if they have it, really.
Indeed.
Are we just getting over the line? We are. Okay. We did make the mistake. We played poorly. I say we. It was me. It was entirely my fault. We're on the Voice of Victory. We could have won a turn earlier and we wouldn't have that sort of dicey turn there.
I didn't see it too, so otherwise I would have said anything.
I just forgot about Voice of Victory impacting me like that, which is foolish. So, what did you like from our sideboard in this particular matchup?
So, they are known for playing very good removal in Solitude and Swords to Plowshares, so we are going to have some additional protection in Not of This World and Sylvan Safekeeper, which both is very good. I'm not sure if Collector Roof is too impactful. They have some artifact mana, so it would slow them down, but I'm not sure it merits a slot. It probably depends on what we decide are the cuts.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's probably an argument about if we want to have some number of Abrupt Decay for some of their prison pieces which slow us down, like the Archon of Emeria, or maybe they play turn 1 Chalice, which disables many of our things.
Removing a chump blocker is also really important when they're cracking you back with a lot of damage as well. So it's like an important thing to have.
So then the cuts, yeah, but Jukabog, obviously. Sejiri Step, if they have flying blockers, we want to have that. Also, it's additional protection, so it's unquestionably good card. And Ghost Quarter for their like Caracas stuff things have proven good. Also, Poseidon for the same thing. So I don't think we are cutting any lands. Then when we look at the protection suit, maybe we could remove some needles, because what would we reasonably name with it? They obviously don't play Wasteland, and I'm not sure they have too much activated stuff we care about. So
There
I
is a
think we
possibility they have Wasteland. I don't think they do, but there is a very minor possibility. I don't think we should play like they do have Wastelands though. So Pith of Needles is an interesting. Like we can name Caracas is the thing we name with it, which is important. We can sometimes name Touch of the Spirit Realm. But what I don't particularly like here is the hand disruption. I'd rather have actual protection spells than hand
because
disruption.
the Inquisition misses Solitude and the Duress also.
Yeah. So we could keep another needle in, or we could do something like this and just have an additional disruptor flute in, so that we've got a little bit more protection against Caracas, specifically Caracas. But obviously we have the protection pieces here. It's a case of, do you think it's better to have Thoughtseize, which can impact our own life total, or do you think we should have the disruptor flute? Obviously there's only a few seconds left, so it's not really. We're just going to run it like this. But it's an interesting thing to think about for game 3. So what are your thoughts on that in terms of like the flutes over the Thoughtseizers?
I think the flutes are getting worse the more discard we cut, because in terms of instant speed interaction, it reduces our chances to know if they have Solitude or Swords to Plowshares for what to name with the flutes if we don't name Caracas. So I think there's maybe a threshold there.
What do you think about this opening hand?
I guess it's probably on the slow side. We have depth and we have a crop rotation. The Surgery step is obviously bad, so it's a mulligan to 6 already. Then it has the Abrupt Decay going for us, so maybe we can remove some Arcane of Emeria or the like. But I'm not sure if we are about to take a controlling role here, or if we are rather trying to go fast.
So my thoughts is a little bit like the other white matchup we played, the Jeskai one, where we want to have protection and stuff. So we kind of need like a 3-card combo almost. This is a really interesting one, actually. How do you feel about this?
Well, we have much of one half of the combo, and then Once Upon a Time, which has to do some heavy lifting here. The Note of the Sword obviously is a very valuable asset, but if we keep this and the Once Upon a Time whiffs, we don't have too much going on.
Mm-hmm. I think this is one where you could take the gamble if you're a gambling person, but I think it's not a good practice to do so.
I think we can have better hands, even on a low mulligan.
All right, so this one has no lands, so we're just going to mulligan again. As a tradition. Okay, so we have some combo pieces. We have another sort of combo piece. We're obviously keeping this one, but we have to put 3 cards back, which is the hard part. What do you think is going, and why?
So you already put 3 cards to the left, probably some muscle memory thing, but those are probably the Safekeeper and the 2 combo pieces is probably what I would keep anyways. And then we would probably want to have the Verdant, because it gives us both colors for our spells.
So get rid of these 3, you reckon?
Yeah, I guess.
Because then what are we looking here? We're just trying to draw 1 mana source.
Yeah, exactly. We can play the Safekeeper and then hope to go into the combo.
Yeah, I think that's correct. Also, the thing about the Safekeeper that's really good is it beats Voice of Victory.
Yeah, I didn't think about this one, but the fact that it can fend off multiple attempts to remove Merit Lage is quite good. So
do you think we should play the Safekeeper right now?
So the question is, do we possibly want to play Sylvan Scrying on 2? If yes, we want to play the Safekeeper now. If we play it next turn, we have more lands, so we can possibly defend it against the removal on the Safekeeper. Is that something we would be interested in, or can we waste those resources on keeping the Safekeeper? Is a question. So this.
Where are you falling on this question?
So if I think there could be some merit in playing the Safekeeper next turn, because we can make another land drop and then have 2 instances of protection to keep it around. But the question is if we want to do this, and then if we possibly want to play the Scrying next turn, if we want to do this, we also have to play the Safekeeper now.
Mm-hmm. So, would you like me to give you my thoughts on this one?
Basically, yeah.
So we play the Safekeeper this turn. If it eats a removal spell, it's exactly the same as if we just duress a removal spell out of their hand, which is also fine and something I would happily cast here, because we're not really going to pitch any of these lands to save the Safekeeper right now. And this way we can get the Sylvan Scrying, because the one thing our hand is missing is the one extra mana source to get us over the finish line. So we play the Safekeeper this turn. If this eats a Source to Plowshares, then we just let it go. We just say, okay, we duressed away Source to Plowshares. That's fine.
I was not sure about this one, if it had some merit to keep it around and slow us down or not. But you answered this one.
Like, there's a lot of, like, sometimes you get into situations where you kind of, your brain is going to be, like, thinking so many different things, like, what if this, what if this, what if this? And you kind of have to try and boil it down to, like, some relative fundamentals at some stages. This is a matchup that is going to go quite quick. We're going to need to make sure we leverage our mana on our turns. If we miss on land for this, it's going to be disastrous. Okay, so this is actually really irritating, because all our lands are going to come in tap now. Okay, but that doesn't matter anymore. So we play out this Thespian Stage because we want this one to be untapped when we untap next turn. Do we play out the Lotus Petal now? Or do we keep it in hand?
So I guess the danger of them playing the Chalice for 0 is not that high. So that would not be a good reason to play it now. They maybe could have some stuff which removes the Lotus Petal, so maybe there's some merit in keeping it in hand until next turn.
We also have the fear of Archon of Emeria, which could maybe mess up the amount of spells we want to cast in a turn for some reason.
Well, if this is a concern, we could probably play it now.
I don't believe our opponent is going to spend any time removing our Lotus Petal, so I'm on team play Lotus Petal, but I also think holding the Lotus Petal there is fine as well. I don't think it makes a huge difference here. Like, the things we're playing around are things that probably aren't in our opponent's deck either way. I guess the Witch Enchanter actually is the one thing they can have here. We actually have seen the Witch Enchanter, so maybe we're actually right to hold this in hand just because of Witch Enchanter. The One Ring. Okay. That's fine. So we get to attack our opponent for 1, which is weirdly relevant. So if we play this one out, we have the mana to go, and we have the ability to protect our Marit Lage once.
Which is a good proposition, I guess.
And then we're just cracking for 1. If they gain life for some reason, we want to make sure that... Oh, why are we attacking for 1 when they have the One Ring? Ignore me. Ignore me.
But on the other hand, we aren't going to block.
We're not blocking with this anyway, so... But it was just no reason to attack with this.
We sent a message.
Yeah. Thinking about many, many things. If they play a spell now... Okay, they have Karakas. That's kind of irritating. So if they have Karakas and Plow, that kind of sucks for us. We really want them to play a spell here and just hold up the Karakas. A Witch Enchanter. Okay. So they're going to target our Lotus Petal, so we should make our thing in response, right?
Yeah, this was my question. I think it doesn't get better. So they have the choice of either playing a spell or using Karakas, unless they have Solitude plus the white card.
But they can't Solitude this turn, so we maybe get to make our land drop first.
Sure.
They shouldn't let us do that, but they might do.
I thought it was non-creature spell on Arcane, but it's any spell, right?
Yeah, it's just a full-on...
Rule of Law.
Yes, that's the card I was trying to think of. Thank you. I was going to say Arcane Lab, but that's a blue one, isn't it?
It is.
Which is a card that exists for some reason. Just let us. So they might just try and overload us on our turn. So we will protect this with a Bayou. They can't cast a spell this turn because they've already cast the Witch Enchanter.
I think worst thing they could have is Solitude now upkeep.
Okay, they have nothing. So we managed to get through a white matchup, which is always a pleasant one. And we are currently cruising at 3-1, so not too shabby here. We got crushed by the Jeskai control deck, though. But Jeskai control, Bant control, those are not our friends. All right, on to the final round. We're on the play. This is our opener. What do you think about this one?
Well, it has Urborg and Dark Depths as well as Pithing Needle, so it has some things going for it, and we only need to find the second half of the combo, which is 16 cards, I guess. So it's not too bad a proposition, and it's has something against Wasteland. The Sejiri step in being on a hand is not optimal, so it's basically a mulligan to 6, but I think it's a good hand in the blind.
So I would keep this in a 4 or 5 card hand. But I think when we can just fish for really powerful 6s, like we're kind of not really using like a bunch of our hand already. So we might as well just fish for something a bit stronger that gets there, that we know can get there, sort of thing. Especially when we're in the blind.
Okay,
like we mulliganed to 3 earlier and won. Our deck can do some pretty good mulliganing actions. What do you think of this one?
No, I don't think it's a keepable hand. It has some nice tools in Pithing Needle, and we can imagine once upon a time finding good things, but I wouldn't rely on this, so yeah.
Yeah.
No combo pieces there.
Okay, what about this one?
So we are on 5 already, so I think we can keep this. We have discard and needle and 1 combo piece, also route to the second one. So question is once again what we put back, and maybe it's 1 petal, and then the question is what the second thing is. The scrying is obviously good because it finds the second half of our combo, and we don't know if we rather want to have needle or the Inquisition, so don't have heuristics on that. I could also imagine putting back the second petal, but this probably makes some of our draws worse.
I think because we're on the play, I think if we were on the draw, so we're going to see another thing, maybe we could put back the petal, but I think we have to keep the petal. So it's a case between the Inquisition and the Pithing Needle. Which one do you think is just going to be better generically speaking for us?
Probably the Inquisition will be better.
Yeah, I agree.
Because in most non-Wasteland matchups, Pithing Needle is not impactful. Right. So yeah, I think we play Bayou and play Inquisition of Kozilek.
Yep, I think that's the correct way to go here. Okay, a main deck Pyroblast. So this is Painter. What do you think we're taking here?
It's probably the Lotus Petal because it's accelerating what they can do, and the Pyroblast is not relevant until they got the Painter, which they don't have. Also, it's a multiple, so...
If they had just 1 Pyroblast and a Lotus Petal and then, like, let's say another land or something, what would you take in that case?
Still the Lotus Petal.
Okay.
Because I think they need another card. They have nowhere to dig for it. So, as we are not blue per se, it's a dead card against us for the moment.
Yeah. So the Painter Servant into Pyroblast in one of our guys, one of our lands, is like a real line. It's basically the main way they have interacting with us. So maybe but they would need to do that relatively quickly, right?
And we slow them down, so even if they rip Painter and we take the pedal, they can play turn 1.
Okay, this is a really interesting turn. What do you think we should do?
So I guess we would like to play out the Dark Depths, so we are closer to our combo, and if we want to play the Sylvan Scrying too, we should utilize a Lotus Petal for this.
Yes, so there is a temptation here to play the Forest into it, but the problem is, like you said, you need to get to your combo quicker, and sure, this doesn't get to our combo next turn, but what if we draw, let's say, any piece of fast mana in our deck? Then we have the combo next turn. So this has 7 outs to make us a 20/20 next turn.
Yeah, this is the fastest route to combo we have at the moment.
So Urza's Saga can sometimes get something that's going to be a bit spooky for us.
Yeah, Pithing Needle namely.
Not of this world. Not particularly useful card here.
I guess we are playing the stage anyways, or is there any merit in not playing the stage? So if they get Needle, they maybe name Vampire Hexmage. I probably
they already know we have the stage though, so I don't think it's going to make a difference. I think we just have to sort of see if they have the Needle or not.
Oh yeah, we revealed it. Never mind.
Hopefully not. But if we had 1 more mana here, then we could do an interesting thing where we copy like the Saga, and then they're in a situation where they have to decide if they want to Needle their own Sagas.
Yeah.
All right.
Also, we could possibly make some blockers in case the game goes longer.
Okay, so they do have a Pithing Needle. So the Thespian stage isn't going to work Now, we do run Boseiju, which can take this out, and we've got some other draws. This is generally one of our better matchups, but our opponent's draw here is pretty good against what's going on, and our draw is a little bit on the slower side.
And now their blasts are live too.
So now they got the blast and stuff, so I don't think we're going to win this one. But I'm pretty happy with how our deck looks post-board. Okay, so I suppose we just play the stuff out. It doesn't really matter here, does it, at the end of the day? I think this one is kind of over, but we'll see what happens. What do we need to draw here? So a Hex Mage is something we can cast off of our Lotus Petal, but it will just get red blasted. So any spells we have are unlikely to work here. And they got a Fable. All right, we'll take one more draw step and then probably scoop this one up, I think. Because we're not going to beat double red blast unless we draw something really good this turn. Another Thespian Stage. All right, I think we just go to the sideboard here. But this is a matchup that my current win percentage against this is over 80% in my stats. So,
but I don't think our decisions this game mattered very much.
No, not really. So it is how it is sometimes. So what do you like out of the sideboard here? And what do you not like in our main deck?
Well, they have some graveyard synergies, so we could think about Leyline, but on the other hand, I guess that's their grindy plan, and I'm not sure we want to prepare for this. Disruptor Flute could be good, and also I think additional protection in a form of Safekeeper and Not of This World against their blasts could be good. They have some artifact-based stuff, so Oof could be good, but I'm not too sure about it. I mean, yeah, it hits the grindstone for their combo finish. But also we maybe want to have Abrupt Decay for the same reason, because it disrupts their combo. So there are many things which have some merit, but I'm not sure which fits best with our game plan in the post-board games.
Okay, so what do we not like from the main deck? Let's focus on that bit.
This is also a difficult question. They have no wastelands, so Needle loses some value, but then they have some things like Urza Saga. But then also needling this is a long-term plan. We could obviously name Grindstone if they go for a quick combo, so this could keep us in the game. But the question is if we want to be in a controlling stance like this and take too many reactive things. We don't want to dilute our combo too much, right?
Yeah. So the thing about Red Blast in this matchup, that they can kill our creatures, sure. But the thing is, they have to have Painter online. So the Abrupt Decay kind of answers that anyway. So in this matchup, I'm just going to go through it because we haven't got a lot of time left. I don't think we want Not of This World in this matchup at all. And I don't think we need Bojuka Bog. Like, there are sometimes situations where you like get something nice with your Bojuka Bog. But most of the time, the Collector Roof and the Abrupt Decays and the Disruptor Flutes are going to cover that anyway. I don't think we need as much hand disruption either, because we're going to answer them on the board, right, rather than in play. So I am inclined to do something that looks like this and just have lots of ways of interacting with our opponent's permanents on the board.
Sure.
And not bother trying to defend our Marit Lage, because they don't really have anything that answers it apart from the Red Blast, which we can answer a different way. Obviously, this opener doesn't have any lands, so we're just going to obviously mulligan this one. We don't need to discuss that one. What about this one?
Yeah, I would be inclined to mulligan it too. We can play Swamp and Spirit Guide Sylvan Scrying to get a Dark Depths, but then we can't play that because we don't have double black for the Hex Mage. We have Needle and Disruptor Flute, but it's rather clunky. I would rather have a hand which is less clunky.
Yeah, I would keep this on a 5, but I wouldn't keep it on a 6. Okay, so this has lots of things that we like here.
Yeah,
obviously this is a keep, but the question is, what do you think should go back and why?
I think Urborg Stage are good. Scrying helps us find the Dark Depths. Collector Oof needs to stay, but we probably need a green source to cast the Scrying. Then mana sources are abundant in our deck, so maybe we can bottom the Verdant Catacombs.
So
second Scrying, Hex Mage, Verdant Catacombs.
So
we only have to put 2
yeah,
down,
so
right?
the second Sylvan Scrying I think is a bit of a gimme because they're not going to impact our hand here. So the question we have is the other card that goes back. I think here. I think we want to keep the green source so that we can cast our 2 green spells here.
Yeah, and
The
then
question
Hexmage has to
I
go.
think is it's either the Hex Mage or it's the stage. It's a case of which one do we think is going to be the better line here.
So Hexmage allows for faster combo, possibly.
And it also leaves us with more lands in play afterwards. Because one of our land
Right.
drops doesn't get eaten up to become a Dark Depths.
And counter magic is not a concern of ours against them unless they have a painter online already. So yeah, then let's bottom the stage.
Which land do you think we should be playing out here? And why?
I would vote for the Urborg because if we just naturally draw Dark Depths, we can just go and play Hexmage on turn 2. If we
So,
want to do this.
what about potential Blood Moons? Because that is something painted decks have out of their sideboard sometimes.
Okay, then in this case we should play the Verdant Catacombs and be ready to fetch, and we would probably incline to fetch a green land if they do it, so that we can cast the green spells, right?
So ordinarily I would agree with you, but the fact that there is a potential turn 1 Blood Moon that could exist in our opponent's deck, I think we have to play this out. And our opponent's deck doesn't kill us very quickly, so we don't have to worry too much about that. I don't think there's any point fetching at end step.
No.
Okay, so what do you think is the correct play here?
So basically 2 options, either playing the Oof or Thought Seizing our opponent. It would be more mana efficient to play the Oof. So I think I would be inclined to do this.
So what about Sylvan Scrying? Do you think this is something that we should be considering casting this turn?
Well, you said they aren't super quick in killing us, but yeah, not either disrupting their hand or playing a prison piece could maybe be risky. Otherwise, so if we play Sylvan Scrying this turn, we basically give them 1 turn to deploy whatever they want, and then we can present the combo next turn, which is also a good place to be in, probably.
So in this situation, I think it is correct to Sylvan Scrying. If our opponent played like a Grindstone, then we probably have to Thoughtseize, but they didn't play anything on 1, so their clock is not super fast here. So we can just get our Urborg down,
Then fetch a basic
Fetch a-
forest.
fetch basic forest, get our Sylvan Scrying going. And if
then
things go
let-
wrong, we have the Collector Roof to buy us time until we can find like a green source. Until we find a black source. Ordinarily, you would prefer to fetch a basic swamp in a situation when you're worried about Blood Moon more than the basic forest.
Yeah,
Purely
because
because of let's make sure I click the right land here. Purely for the purposes of the fact that we have spirit guides, so the spirit guides can give us more green sources. But obviously, we already have the Urborg, and we need the green source to cast the Collector Roof, and the Sylvan Scrying, so it's not really a decision for us there. But this way, we can play Thoughtseize and then just get our stuff down. Our opponent didn't do anything. That's very interesting.
Does that mean they have some instant speed in direction?
Possibly. So I think the Thoughtseize is the obvious play here, and I'm not going to ask you whether or not you think that's right because I trust you enough to know that you're just going to say Thoughtseize first.
Right.
So we can see what the deal is here. Okay, there is a bunch of stuff here.
The Disruptor Flute is probably the thing they're thinking about, so they can play this in response to us playing Hexmage, naming it.
But-
So,
Oh, so go on.
yeah, so I think we would be inclined to take the Flute now, because the other things don't matter for us doing things at instant speed, and if we present Merit Lage, they can't blast it anymore because it's indestructible, right?
So they have an
So-
Arena of Glory in play. This is an interesting little puzzle here. So they've got an Arena of Glory, so they could have a hasty Goblin Engineer.
I see. But they can have a hasty engineer, but they can only play this next turn, and we could make Merit Lage before they deploy the engineer, right?
So we can make Merit Lage now. We pass to our opponent. They can have 3 mana up. So they can Goblin Engineer, and activate it using this thing and put any artifact into play.
Should they get to 2 for so they have an Entomb and can get Ensnaring Bridge, right?
However, we have a Sylvan Scrying in hand. So this is a multi-layered puzzle. So this can go and find us Boseiju. So we have an out to that. It's going to take a couple of turns, potentially, but we have an out to that. Now,
I think, if we don't take the flute now, we are not able to make a Merit Ledge now, so I would still take the flute now.
So the multi-layered puzzle here. So if they have the engineer in play and they get the ensnaring bridge. So if we just take the flute and make the Merit Ledge, they make engineer, get ensnaring bridge. Then we Sylvan Scrying for Boseiju. But as long as our opponent has 1 red mana and an artifact in play, and we already know they're going to have 2 more artifacts in play, we'll never be able to get this ensnaring bridge out until we deal with the engineer as well. So it kind of leaves us in a situation where we just have to let them Disruptor Flute us.
Oh, I see, yeah.
It's awkward, but it is the situation we're in. It's a really interesting puzzle, that one. So we have 2 choices here. So obviously we play this out. We could play the Hex Mage, and our opponent will immediately Disruptor Flute it. Or we could Sylvan Scrying, and then our opponent has 2 choices for what they do with Disruptor Flute, or they can hold on to it and then be non-mana efficient. So I think the Sylvan Scrying here is going to be a stronger line than playing the Hex Mage out.
So you propose we cast Scrying and then get the Thespian stage, so we have 2 things and all, they only can name 1?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then our opponent has to choose now, or they hold up their mana for another turn and do nothing. So we kind of put our opponent in a position where they can't use their resources effectively, and then we just kind of get to do our thing. So they probably play the Disruptor Flute now. They're going to name the Thespian stage here because they've seen that we have it. And then we can play the Hex Mage next turn alongside a Collector Roof as well, which might be able to shut off more of our opponent's resources. So we just put our opponent in a really awkward bind there, because they'd probably just tap out for the Fable this turn. Unless they've drawn something actually useful. They play the Great Furnace, so they're online with their Mox Opal. They have 1 mystery card in hand. That is curious. Another Dark Depths. So we play out the stage, because that's the only land we can really play here. So how do you feel about the order of cards we play here? Do you think we should play the Collector Roof and then the Hex Mage, or just the Hex Mage and then the Collector Roof? Or do you think we should just not play the Collector Roof at all? What do you reckon?
Well, I would be inclined to play the Oof and play it first because it restrains their mana, and maybe they either can't do what they want to do or they have to do it early.
Okay. I think that is a reasonable proposition. So let's fire in this Oof. We know they have a Lightning Bolt, so it's not going to stick around for very long. Let's just get this. Do they draw another Disruptor Flute? That is something that could have happened here. Okay, they're Lightning Bolting our Oof. Do you have another Disruptor Flute? They do have another Disruptor Flute. Okay. So now we need to draw the Abrupt Decay to get anywhere here.
Abrupt Decay
or a Boseiju as well.
Boseiju.
Yeah. So we have quite a lot of draws. Or Sylvan Scrying. So we've got 2 Sylvan Scrying, 4 Abrupt Decay, so that's 6, and then the Boseiju. So we've got 7 outs. And our opponent is obviously going to be like grinding through some various value with this Fable. But we have a first striker, so them attacking doesn't feel great. A Crop Rotation. That does not do anything on this board. We could like go and get a Ghost Quarter and mess around with stuff that way, but I don't think that's particularly useful.
And maybe we keep that for later as a protection piece when we actually can produce a Merit Ledge.
Yep. Maybe it'll end up being like a way of going and getting a black source. If they play a Blood Moon, we can go and get basic Swamp.
Yeah, right.
That's probably the most likely thing. Or this is just going to be us sending the combo twice, potentially. All right, so we're getting something hasty. A Goblin Engineer, sure. We did board out the Bojuka Bog. This is actually one of the random situations where it would be nice to have the Bojuka Bog, but I think the cards we have instead of it are better.
It's a very fringe situation, probably.
So they'll probably go and get the Painter here. I think that's their best option. There it is. So they can put the Painter in and Pyroblast a land at some point. But then we get to Crop Rotate away that land. So it's getting a bit tricky for us. I shouldn't have been talking about how good this matchup is. We probably should have removed the counter at end step, actually. That might be relevant in this particular game.
So that's a Lotus Petal. That's not...
It's not the one, is it? So they get to start copying the Goblin Engineer in a couple of turns as well. So we've kind of got one turn, really, to get things done here.
And the window's closing.
It is unfortunate, but... 80% matchups, that's still 1 in 5 rounds you lose against them. Okay, here comes the Painted Servant. What are you going to do with this one? Are they going to Pyroblast immediately, or are they just going to float this in play for a bit? I'm not going to remove the counters. This game is not going to be about that. I don't think.
Not anymore.
Disruptive Fleet. Okay, so we can name the the Grindstone, but they will just blow this up anyway. We could name the Pyroblast, or we can name the Goblin Engineer, but then they Pyroblast. They kind of just have us coming and going because 1 mana Vindicate / Counterspell is very good. So they should be able to just win the game this turn. So they just... actually, they have enough. They copy this. Then they... Yeah, so they need the treasure from the Shaman. We get to slow them down for a turn here with the Disruptor Flute.
So by naming Goblin Engineer? Yeah.
Well, we can name the Grindstone, which will slow them down so they don't kill us this turn. But we have to act after they start putting abilities on the stack. So they need to copy this first, because then they have to use their Red Blast. So this is going to tutor, and they're going to have 2 things that can put the Grindstone in. So we have to float this little Disruptor Flute. We're almost certainly going to lose this game, but we're going to try and buy ourselves 1 more turn. So we can name Goblin Engineer here. They'll Pyroblast this, but then they still have enough mana, right?
Yes, indeed. Because they have the token as well as the Mox
yeah.
Opal.
Yeah, I don't think we have any suitable ways to win this game. So this goes and gets them the Grindstone.
Then they can blast our flute and bring it back and also activate.
Yeah, I think we are. Just did. Yeah, I think our opponent's got this one. All right. Unfortunately, we lost to one of our better matchups, actually. I think this is the matchup I have the best win rate against on my data, actually, weirdly. It's a pretty good one. Oh, Mono Red Stompy is also very good. Anyway, so we finished with a 3-2, and, it was an interestingly, we had some interesting puzzles popping up here and there. So how do you feel about this sort of league and the discussions we've had? Do you think they were useful? Is there anything that sort of your eyes have been open to?
Yeah, I think it was definitely useful, especially because you were asking the right questions, right? So there were things I was not really thinking about, which you brought up. Then there's obviously lines I was just not seeing in some cases, but it has always some merit to talk through the decisions where I maybe be inclined to just have one idea and don't consider the other options at all. And there are many small decisions to make, I'd say, with the deck, especially in the first turns.
Mm-hmm. And I hope the lovely people at home also found this one quite useful. It's like a real nice deep dive, I thought, today. And we got to play against a nice spread of different decks as well. We had to be wary of counter spells in some, and wastelands and plows, and just people going off and doing combo stuff. So I think we had a nice little range of the meta here, and we sort of showed how just tiny little decisions with this deck kind of ripple outwards and change everything. I think there was one of the decisions where if we'd have played a slightly different land, then we end up being a turn behind, and everything kind of cascades from there. So yeah, I just want to say a big thank you to coming on for this. I know you're getting into Turbo Depths, and you like having a bit of extra help, sort of learning some extra lines and sort of things, learning more of the intricacies of the deck. But I really enjoyed doing this league, and I really appreciate you coming on and allowing me to record us doing this.
Well, I'm glad you were having me. I'm found this quite valuable. Also, I might add, another thing which was quite good for me was you assessing the matchups in terms of what role we take on. and not only the card choices for sideboarding, but also what our aims are post-board, if we want to go fast or if we want to be reactive. This kind of assessment is something that's maybe harder to go around, to get around if you're a new player, and this was also quite valuable, I might add.
Like, obviously, I have a sideboard guide for this on my Patreon, but a sideboard guide tells you what cards come in and out. It doesn't tell you necessarily how you're using your tools and how to play the matchups. So, you know, it is nice to do a video like this where you can kind of get into the real nitty-gritty of what happens when and all that sort of thing.
Right, that's a good closing words, I guess.
All right, I think we are done for today, so thank you so much for joining me, Constantine. Thank you so much, lovely people out there, for watching this one. Let me know what you thought. Was this sort of deep dive a helpful, useful thing? Was it interesting? Feedback is always good. All right, and also remember, like and subscribe. That helps too. Right, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget Turbodepts, as well as 3 tiers of support. A low-cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed Turbodepts guide that is updated every month, as well as regular articles, and lastly, the higher tier gives you all of the above, as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.